Okay, today's topic is relating to other people. And I'm going to subdivide this class into a couple of different headings. The first heading is, why human relations? If God created this world, and we believe that God created the world, why did God create such a complex world? The Bible starts off very nicely. One man, one woman, that's it. Then all of a sudden it mushrooms, and life gets very, very complicated. And you got this one and that one, and the uncles, aunts, mother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, this one, that one. And life gets very complicated. Why not keep it simple? Why is there a need for human relations? Isn't the life of a Robinson Crusoe much easier on a desert island, no one around to bother them? It's much easier. And being a rabbi, I know what it's like. Because people pound me every day. They call me, email, this and that. So 6 weeks I was away. I was so lucky. It was so great. No emails, no telephone calls. Just my own kids bugging me, that's it. There's no escape. But human relations, why human relations? That's number one question. Number two, we're going to talk about one of the main things for good human relations is self-esteem. Self-esteem and self-respect. Not only that, but the Bible tells us something even further. It says, love your friend. Neighbor is a bad interpretation. It's a bad explanation. Love your friend as yourself. What does that mean? That means a person has to love themselves. If a person doesn't love themselves, it's impossible for them to love anyone else. If a person doesn't respect themselves, it's impossible to respect others. So that's number two. Self-respect, self-love, self-esteem. It's very, very important. A person should not knock themselves. Number three, respect for others. There's a concept the Bible tells us is God created man in His image. Then it continues, it says, He created them in His image. In His image He created them. There's a whole big discussion in the Bible right at the beginning. First it says God created man, then it says He created them. So we're going to discuss that. But we find that humanity is created in the image of God. And therefore, we're related to each other, if only through a common ancestor, only through a common creator. But also we have to respect that every single human being is a holy being, has an image of God in them. And that should draw us closer to others. So respect for others, number three. Number four, one of the things we have to concentrate on in the coming classes is communication. It's impossible to have good human relations without being able to communicate. It's impossible. Every society has its form of communication. Whether it's smoke signals, whether it's drum beating, whether it's emails, whatever it is, everyone has their form of communication. And communication is a very important tool. A person cannot have good relations with anyone without a good form of communication. Open, honest, direct, without hurting someone. It's very, very important. Have a good form of communication. Number five, and this is very hard, is selfishness, to being unselfish. A person's got to be unselfish. We find that right at the beginning of the Pirkei Avot. In Pirkei Avot it says, we find in the Ethics of the Fathers it says, Em en ani li mili. If I am not for myself, who is for me? If I am not for myself, who is for me? Mimani le'atzmi ma'ani. If I am for myself, what am I? So we see that there's a dichotomy over here. If I am not for myself, who's going to be for me? A person's going to look after their own interests. On the other hand, if a person only looks after their own interests, what's going to happen is they're a very selfish person. So we have to do both. We have to look after our interests, and then we have to look after other people's interests as well. So in human relations, it's important to be unselfish. Not to be selfish and worried about oneself constantly. And lastly, the sixth thing is, which we have to discuss is to judge other people favorably. And that's also very important in terms of things always happen. And it's very hard. We always go through situations in life. Let me give you a little example. You ordered some kind of work in your house, and you weren't very clear specific about the terms of payment and how much it's going to cost. And the guy comes to your house, he does the work, and all of a sudden you get a massive bill in the mail. So what's going on over here? So there's a concept of judging someone favorably. In other words, don't judge them until you speak to them. Don't judge them till you clarify the matter. So that's number 6. So there's the 6 things we're going to go through. Number 1 is human relations are the vehicle for growth. Without human relations, a person cannot grow. A person cannot fix their character traits. So human relations are the vehicle for growth. Number 2, what are the keys of human relation is? Human relation starts with oneself. Self-esteem, self-love, self-respect. If a person doesn't love themselves, they can't love other people. Number 3, respect for others. Why? God created man in his image. Number 4, communication. A person has to be able to communicate with others. Number 5, being unselfish, not being selfish. Being able to give to others. And number 6 is judging others favorably. Those are the 6 things I want to talk about, and hopefully we'll get through it tonight. If not, we don't get through it tonight, we'll go through it in the coming classes. So, number 1, we have a massive problem today. We're facing a very big problem today in our society. We seem to be conquering a lot of different things. We conquered Everest, we conquered space, we went to the moon. One of the major problems we're facing today in our society is, with all the machinery, with all the technology, is mental illness, mental problems. There's a lot of people out there with mental problems. There's a lot of psychotic drugs. There's a lot of legal ones, and there's also a lot of illegal ones. There's a lot of drugs out there. There's many self-prescribed addictions man uses to feel good. And there's many books on this topic. So on the one hand, we're winning the battle. Technology is advancing, science is advancing, things are getting easier. Mentally, we don't seem to be able to be coping. And the question is, what is going on? So it's interesting. The Torah says right at the beginning, it says, Lo tov hiyot adam levado. It's not good for a human being to be alone. You're going to see, a lot of the problems we face today is caused by loneliness. And a person can be alone even within a family. It's a very important point. People think, you know what? The child is growing up in the family. Wrong. The child, you're right, it's in a family, but it's not growing up with the family. The father's in his room on his internet. The mother's in her room reading a book. The child is on the TV and that's it. So the child is not growing up in a family. We all need, for mental health, we need to be brought up properly. We need to get love and caring, especially when we're young. And it's very, very important. And the people today with their fast-paced lives, it's very hard. I know myself. People today with fast-paced. Okay, so let's get back. So medical problems today, mental problems, which are afflicting us, are based on this idea that human relations. We're failing with human relations. You know the famous joke of the guy in Manhattan who was held up. A gangster held him up, put a gun to his head. He said, "What do you want? Take my wallet. What do you want? Money? What do you want?" He says, "No," he says, "I just need someone to talk to." We all need someone to talk to. People pay psychologists $60 an hour, $70 an hour. Why? They need someone to talk to. Why can't a child talk to the father or mother? Why? Because the child does not feel comfortable. The child feels, my father and mother don't have time. Whenever I'm around, they sort of get fidgety. And they don't want to talk to me. They just utter commands at me, throw commands at me, and you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're not doing this. They have no time to listen to me. They don't have time. You know, it's interesting. What do people feel the most is they want to feel like they're wanted. People want to feel wanted. People want to feel that people care about them. How do you feel that someone cares about you? When you feel that they want to be around you. The child, especially young age, what do you do with a little baby? You hold them, you gurgle with them, it's fun. You play with them. What does the baby feel? That's when the years of the baby gets the most stability. The baby's stability is based on Those years of growing up where it got tender, loving care, TLC, we all need TLC. The baby feels the warmth, the baby feels caring, the baby feels people want to be around them, it feels loved. The baby has self-esteem now. The baby feels people care about me. I'm worth something. I'm a worthwhile individual. You know, someone around the block, they went to China to adopt a baby. And in China, they want all the boys, they don't want the girls, because they're allowed only one child each. So the girls are thrown away. If they survive the first year, they're thrown out. And he adopted a baby girl. It's emaciated, mental problems. It seemed like mental problems. Autistic. After 6 months, baby is a vibrant, lively, vivacious baby. Why? Human beings are like flowers. Even flowers need love and care. They get no attention, they just wilt and they fade. And this is true also with the elderly. They're in a nursing home. They feel no one cares, no one goes to visit, the family doesn't care, they wilt away. We all need, human relations is very, very important. It's critical in terms of our mental health. We all need it. We all need to feel that people care. And some people don't get it. People are very, very disturbed. They never got it when they were young. Their parents didn't know how to relate to them. Or they didn't have parents. Parents threw them out, whatever it is. So that's a very important, that's what the Torah says right at the beginning. What does it tell us? It says it's not good for a person to be alone. Not good. And that's why Judaism encourages marriage. And the earlier the better. Why? It's not good for a person to be alone. We think, you know, I'm alone, I can do it all. It's great. That's fine when a person's strong. That's fine a person when he gets up in a good mood. When he's down and out, what's going to happen? So you always need another person in the life. So that's a very, very important idea. Is today's society has failed in that sense that we're not looking after each other. We don't know how to give each other this love. We don't know how to care for each other. We don't know how to care for each other's self-esteem and help each other to grow. One of the great heroes in the Jewish tradition, it's interesting, we all know about Moses. But who was Moses' brother? What was his name? Aaron. Very good. Aaron, Aharon, the high priest. Right? He became the high priest. His brother became the leader. Moses was the first king, really. He wasn't anointed, but he was the first king of Israel. He was the physical leader. He was also a prophet. But Aaron was the high priest. The Bible says, what was Aaron? Who was he? So Midrash says, his trait was Ohev Shalom v'Rodef Shalom. He was a lover of peace and a chaser after peace. What does that mean? Midrash says, he saw two people arguing. He would go to one and say, you know, the other guy really loves you. Tell a lie. He said, yeah, he loves me? So why do you do this to me? He made a mistake, but he really loves you. He wants to ask your forgiveness. Then he went to the other one, and he would say the same thing. You know that person? He really loves you. So why do you do that to me? You know, he's sorry, he apologizes, something came over him. Aaron was one of the greatest people in terms of making peace between people, human relations. The Mishnah tells us, be of the followers of Aaron. Study what he did and try and work on it and be like him. Emulate him. Be of the followers of Aaron. What do we see in Aaron? What was the great underlying trait of Aaron? Let me give you a little insight, interesting insight. Who's the older brother, Moses or Aaron? Yeah. Aaron. Moses argued with God for 7 days. You saw the movie? I read the book. I'm going to read the book. The book's better than the movie. Moses argued with God for 7 days. Don't send me, don't send me, don't send me. Why was he arguing with God? He says the underlying reason was, he says, then it came out later on, my brother is older than me. Aaron, he'll get upset. He's going to get upset. Moses doesn't say it. God tells him, don't worry about your brother Aaron. From God's reply to Moses, we can see what was bothering Moses. God knew what was bothering Moses. You see the brotherly love between Moses and Aaron. Moses didn't want to hurt his brother's feelings. If I become the leader, he's my older brother. He's going to feel upset. He's older. He gets his first priority. God tells Moses, he says, don't worry. Aaron's going to come and greet you, and he's going to be happy for you. What was Aaron? Aaron was a person who never had any envy with anyone else. His own small brother, it's a tremendous trait. We don't appreciate it. It's a tremendous trait. Aaron was, the greatness of Aaron was, he loved every fellow human being and could rejoice in the other person's success. It's very hard to rejoice in someone else's success. We all want to be successful. The other guy's successful, I'm not successful. What happens? We denigrate the other person. Hey, yeah, he could do it, but only because of this, only because of that. Aaron was the other way around. Aaron was, when someone else was successful, he was happy. Moses was successful, his brother, he comes to greet him with happiness in his heart. It's a tremendous trait. It's a tremendous idea in human relations. But that's what a person needs in order to help someone else. How do you help someone else? Why would I want to help someone else? If I help him, he'll be successful. If he becomes successful, he'll beat me out. I'm not going to help him. So the first thing is, we have to learn from Aaron, is not to be envious of others. Others are successful, we have to be happy about it. There's a famous rabbi, Chavetz Chaim he was called. He lived in the 1930s. Died before the Second World War. So one day he made a party. Well, the rabbi made a party. What did he make a party for? So they asked the rabbi, why do you make a party? It's not your birthday. What happened? It's not anyone's birthday. It's not your anniversary. Why do you make a party? He said, I heard that another Jew in the next town won the lottery. I'm happy for him. There's a big ticket today, right? What is it called? The Powerball? 170 million or whatever it was. 200 million already? Okay. Let's go and buy one. So can you imagine? You hear someone, an acquaintance of yours, won the Powerball. What was the Chavetz Chaim's reaction? He made a party of happiness, joy. I'm feeling someone else's joy, I'm happy. That's wild. That's a great person. That's human relations to the best level of human relations. I'm happy for someone else's happiness. And to empathize for someone else's loss. You know the story, it says, a very wealthy person passed away. So all his relatives at the funeral are crying. And they see someone else crying over there. So they look around. Hey? You're not related, are you? He said, no. He says, why are you crying then? He says, that's why I'm crying. I'm not related. I don't get anything in the will. But that's the idea. Everyone wants to be, we want to have something. We want to have a part. We want to have a share. If we don't have a share, we're not happy. Why am I happy about this guy winning the lottery? Who cares? Chavetz Chaim was happy. Someone else he knew won the lottery, he was overjoyed. He was happy for that person. So that's Aaron. Aaron, the high priest. Empathy. Empathy is tremendously important. And that's really the key to mental health, to helping others. You know, there's two parts to the therapy. When you go to a therapist, there's two parts, especially with a child. What are the two parts? The first part is the therapist just plays with the child. He listens to the child. The child's rambling, muttering, talks to him. No therapy, just listening. Why? To give the child a feeling that the therapist cares. The therapist just wants to be with the child. Just the feeling that someone wants to be with him. The child feels, my parents don't love me. Why? They don't want to be with me. Every time I come in the house is empty. When they come, they say hello, they give me the food, and they go by it. They're doing their own thing. No one wants to be with me. The first part of therapy is just being with someone. The first part of human relations is just listening, just being. Empathy, caring. That's the first part of human relations. So why is human relations such an important part? It's interesting. You know, there's a famous book. It's called The Path of the Just. You can get this book in Hebrew and English. It's called by the Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, a very famous Kabbalist, very big Kabbalist. And in short, he's called the Ramchal. Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, that's his name. So the acronym is Ramchal. So he says, our whole lives are full of what's called nisayon. What's a nisayon? Nisayon is a test. Literally, it's a test. He says, God puts us in this world, and every day there's another test. This guy walking in over here was a test. What should we do? What's the reaction? Should we shout at him, scream at him? Everything's a test. We all have tests in life. You know, we always pray in the morning prayers, early in the morning, when we wake up, there's morning blessings. One of the blessings we say is, God, Lo lidei nisayon ve'lo lidei bizayon. Don't test us and don't disgrace us. Because the outcome of failing the test is disgrace. And the rabbis say an interesting parable. They say when a person passes away, Imagine you go into the next world. You walk into an auditorium, and they're playing a movie. You look at the movie. Hey, that's me up there. What's that? You look around. What's going on over here? So this is your life. They're playing back your whole movie. So, oh God, there's certain scenes over there I want to erase. Too late, boy. We can only erase it over here. That's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. We can erase those scenes. We can repent and erase those scenes. It's very embarrassing, certain scenes. But that's the effects of nisayon, of tests. Either we pass the test, that's fantastic, I want to see that movie. Show it again. Or we fail the test, erase that scene. So Moshe Chaim Luzzatto says, every incident, every episode, every encounter in one's life is a test. Let me give you a little example. You're driving down the highway, and you see a guy who's trying to turn into your lane. What can you do? Happens every day. So you can say, "To heck with you! I'm in a hurry. Get out of my way." Honk. You know, the other guy, I was giving a class the other day. The other guy said he was stuck at a light. The light turned green. The car in front wouldn't move. So he started honking. And eventually he saw that in front of that car was another car, and a handicapped person was getting out. So the person's got to use everything is a test. But test it in small ways. Every day, every episode. You're stuck here, you're stuck there. What is your reaction? Hashem is looking down at us and saying, how are you going to react? Let's see how a person reacts. Put a person in a little test and see how they react. We find this in the Torah. Where do we find a test? Who was tested? Abraham was tested by God. But a human being tested another human being. Put a deliberate test. Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for his son. The servant goes, and the servant says, you know what? I'm going to test every single girl over here this well. I want to find a beautiful girl for my master's son. How do I test her? I say, you know what? I'm thirsty. Anyone got any water? Only one girl stepped forward. She had the water. So that's the one for my master's son. So that's a very important idea. The idea of tests. We all have tests in life. Why do we have tests in life? So Ramchal says, Moshe Chaim Luzzatto says, the reason for a test is give us an opportunity to grow. We have a test in life. You have two choices. Either you fail the test, flunk the test, or it's an opportunity to pass the test. When we look at a test, there's an opportunity to flunk or to pass. And a person has a test and they pass, they've grown. They're on the next level. Like these video games, you get to the next level. You pass the test, you get to the next level. You don't pass the test, you come back and repeat the next level, and you run out of lives. You can learn a lot of ethics. There was a rabbi who learned ethics from everything he saw. Right? So in those days they had telegrams. So what was the ethic you learned from a telegram? Remember telegrams, anyone? I'm getting old over here. Telegram is you have to pay for every single letter. He says, wow, every single word a person says, they've got to pay for it eventually. What did he learn from the locomotive? He says when they brought the first locomotive in his village, he started touching all the cars of the locomotive. Until he got to the steam engine, touched it. He says, So the student says, Rabbi, very strange behavior. What are you doing? You're touching every single car. And then you touch the steam engine, then you say, what do you learn from this? So I said, he says, one hot car can pull many cold ones. A person's full of enthusiasm, can pull many cold people behind you. His enthusiasm. What can we learn from a video game? And this is important because we have to learn things from everything in this world. We can learn what's called musar. We can learn ethics from it. What can a person learn from a video game? Exactly what I said before. But what? If you're successful, you pass the tests, you get to the next level. If you fail the tests, you've lost one life. You've got to come back and do it again. That's exactly what the Zohar says. That's exactly what the Kabbalah says. If we're not successful, come back till you get to the next level. Got to keep on going till you get to the next level. Very important. So the Ramchal says everything in life is tests. And life is test after test after test. Now the test does not have to be unpleasant. It's interesting. The test can be a very pleasant test. And those are the most dangerous tests. Very pleasant. And in fact, sometimes the greatest times of joy are the greatest tests. For example, marriage is time of joy. It's the greatest test in a person's life. How is a person going to react to someone else in their lives they've got to share everything with? Can a person share? It's a tremendous opportunity for growth, and it's a tremendous opportunity for failure. In fact, today it's about 50-50. Can you share, or are you a selfish person? You cannot share. Something like that. I'm just generalizing. So it's interesting. Let me just give you a little example. The Midrash relates the story of the prophet Samuel. And it says the prophet Samuel's father was a very, very great man. Elkanah, his name was Elkanah. He acquired for God. Elkanah. There's a mitzvah in the Torah of going to the temple 3 times a year. You got to go to the temple. I'm not talking about, that's one joke. It happened to me, true story. I was in Vancouver. I asked the guy, why don't you come to shul? Why don't you come to services? He says, the Torah says only 3 times a year, Rabbi. But that's talking about the temple in Jerusalem. It's not talking about the regular synagogue. But we have to go to the temple 3 times a year. We don't have a temple anymore. I was just there. There's only one wall left of the temple. That's the Wailing Wall. That's the only wall left of the old structure of the temple. The outer wall of the temple. Inside is the mosque. But at that time in history, Jews stopped going to the temple. Even 3 times a year was just too much. You have to empty your house, you've got to pack your belongings, you've got to walk all the way to Jerusalem. It's too much hassle. The father of Samuel restarted this. He started going to the temple again. And not only that, but he hired a band to go to the temple. So everywhere he went, he had a big band, marching band, and he's marching with his family behind the band. So people are looking, where are you going? Elkanah, what's going on? I'm going to the temple. So, oh, wait a second, we'll just join you. We're going to pack quickly and join you. So by the time he got there was a big crowd behind him. It takes one man to start. That was Elkanah, the father of Samuel. How did he attain greatness? He was a great man. How did he attain greatness? The verse says, V'hala ha'ishahu me'iro. This man went up from his city. The man went up from his city. Elkanah, this man went up from his city. The Midrash says, he didn't only go up from his city. First he went up from his house. Then he went up from his neighborhood. Then he went up from his city. What is the Midrash telling us? There's stages in a person's life. You have to go up. How do you go up? First you go up from your house. Human relations begins at home. You know, my wife has this complaint against me. I'm very good to others. When I come home, not so good. Human relations begins at home. Everything starts at home. We all have to start at home. We have to start the process at home. We have to be nice at home. We have time for our own kids. We have time for our own spouses. Everything starts at home. And that's the test. The test is, marriage is a test. The home is a test. Are you going to grow as a person? You're not going to grow as a person. Any human relation is a test. Why did God create so many human relations? Because God wants us to grow. How do we grow? We're just on a desert island by ourselves. Imagine, no growth. 0 growth as a human being. Growth is only when you have a test. What gives us tests? Other human beings find ways to giving us tests. They find their ways. Some people can be real big tests. Some people can be smaller tests. You know, every human being has their own tests. Depends how obnoxious they are. So that's very, very important. And a person can only improve their traits in the framework of human relations. That's why human relations is very important. I just want to quote you a little bit of a book, which is called the Pele Yoetz. And it's in English. It's called The Essential Pele Yoetz. It's written by a Turkish rabbi about 150 years ago. And he has a section on loving one's friends. As we said, it's loving one's friends as oneself. And we know the story of the Gentile who came to Hillel, the great rabbi. He says, tell me the Torah on 1 foot. Stand on 1 foot and teach me the whole Torah. I want to be a Jew, but I don't have time to learn the whole Torah. Give me a short version of the Torah. Just stand on your 1 foot and tell me the whole Torah on 1 foot. So Hillel tells him, he says, don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. That's the whole Torah. The rest is all commentary. Go and learn. So that's the negative of loving one's neighbor as oneself. That's the negative part. I love my neighbor, I'm not going to hurt him. That's the negative. The next stage is harder, which is do good for him. Because don't do bad, which is what Hillel told him. Don't do bad to your neighbor. That's the whole bottom line of the whole Torah, which is human relations, improving oneself. You know, sometimes someone parks in your parking spot, and you feel like, I want to go and slash his tires. Don't do to others you don't want others to do to you. The guy's making a loud noise next door. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. That's the test. The test is not when everything's going smoothly. The test is when things are not going smoothly. When things are going smoothly, we're all beautiful people. We're all fantastic people. So when we're under stress, put a little, God has a sense of humor. Put a little bit of pepper in the soup. See what happens, reaction. So love one's neighbor as oneself. Don't do to others what is hateful to you. So he says, Jerusalem was destroyed because people hated each other. People didn't know how to get along. We were exiled from our land. Until today, he says, we yearn for redemption, but no Savior will come as long as this evil exists amongst us. We have to increase love amongst our own people even. Our own people. They don't get along. This one doesn't talk to this one fights with this one's suing this one. We've got to get along. We've got to learn how to love each other. Do not speak to or about another person in a manner in which you would not like someone to speak to about you. I'm speaking about a third party. Would I like him to speak about me like that? That's called gossip. Laws of Lashon Hara, of evil speech. Contemplate deeply this matter, he says, because we all can always rationalize anything. You know, human beings have the facility of rationalizing everything. We can rationalize, we can make good bad and bad good. We can rationalize anything. So he says, we have to treat each other with compassion. Why? Because we're all related. How? We're all children of one parent. All of us are related. We're all descendants of one person, and we're all God's creatures. A person naturally loves himself, hopefully. We talked about that. So it's hard. A person's got to work on self-respect, self-love. A person naturally loves their children, their family. When it comes to helping others, self-love predominates. Especially if there's expense or trouble involved. Strive to overcome and imbue oneself with love for others. It's a high level. First you've got to love yourself. First you've got to love your family, and then you've got to love other people. And what happens is, each step is another trial, it's another test. First I've got to love myself. That's a test in itself. Some people don't love themselves. They look in the mirror and they don't like what they see. And unfortunately the symptom is, if people spend a lot of money in plastic surgery, that's a sign of not self-love. If people spend all day at the gym, that's also a sign. There's all sorts of signs. A person wants to improve themselves to a certain extent. They want other people to love them. Love. Why? I don't love myself. I want other people to make up for it. But that's the first test, is loving oneself. Self-respect. It's a big thing today. It's a massive problem today. People don't have self-respect. One of the big causes of the Industrial Revolution is the machine is better than the man. One of the big problems. A lot of people lost their jobs. Why? The machine took over. What does that person feel? No self-respect. Depressed. The machine is more than me. That computer can do more than I can do. Let's focus on our strengths. There's many things that computers can't do, we can do. So we have to love other people. There was once a rabbi, he says, who showed respect to every person he met. He explained his behavior as follows. If he is wiser than me, I show respect to his wisdom. If he is more foolish than me, I have to honor him. Why? I'm held to a higher degree of accountability in God's eyes. I know more than him. I'm held to a higher degree of accountability. If he's a better person than I, he should be honored. So a person's got to find something to honor in other people. Always try and find something to honor. So that's We have to love other people. We have to really go out and love. How do we do that? So we said the first thing is self-respect. Let's talk a bit about self-respect. Having a good, healthy image of oneself is a prerequisite of entertaining worthy thoughts about others. If I can think good things about myself, then I can start thinking good things about others. If I think bad thoughts about myself, why should I think good things about other people? So if I feel I'm bad myself, everyone's bad. That's usually the consequence of bad self-image. So when a person feels secure and positive, what's that song? When you smile, the whole world's smiling. Is that right? So when a person feels good about themselves, feels good about everyone else. A person feels bad about himself, looks outside, everything's dark. Everything is black. I had a bad day, a lousy day, and everything's black. The whole world's black. So there's two options. One is climb out of that hole. First option, climb out of the hole. Or the second option is bring everyone else down with you. Two options. Climb out of the hole. Raise oneself out of the hole. Get out of the self. Or smash the whole world up. All these crazy dictators, that's what they like to do. Bring everyone else down with them. And that's the easiest way. Just bring everyone else down. It's much quicker. It's much harder to grab oneself and take oneself up. Pick oneself up. There's a beautiful line in Pirkei Avot. This is not the simple explanation. The Torah is very deep. There's 4 different levels of explanation. It's like layers of an onion. Just peel away. On the surface it seems like this. You peel away the surface, it's got a deeper level there. So let me just tell you the simple explanation. The Mishnah says, Aseh lecha rav, appoint a rabbi for yourself. You have a question, you have someone to go to. It's very important for a person not to live in doubt. That's also very bad for self-respect. A person doesn't know what to do. They're living in doubt. They don't know what to do, they can't decide. What happens over there? They get depressed, can't decide, don't know what to do. So number one is, get an advisor. Appoint an advisor for oneself. Aseh lecha rav. Next step is, ukanei lecha chaver. Acquire for yourself a friend. It's very easy to appoint a rabbi, but you've got to acquire a friend. What do you mean acquire a friend? Friendship costs money. Not just money, but it requires investment. You've got to invest time, you've got to invest energy, you've got to invest smiles, if you don't feel smiling. You've got to invest in friendship. I want to make you my friend. You're going to come over to my house, have some food, this and that. We're going to get to know each other, we're going to chat. I'm going to spend time, money, effort, getting to know a person. And then hopefully reciprocate. If I don't go out of my way, he's not going to go out of his way. It's not going to be any friendship. So second level is acquire for yourself a friend. And the third thing is judge every person favorably. Because friendships don't last very long. Because usually there's a misunderstanding. Every friendship has a misunderstanding. Misunderstandings in friendship. There's always a misunderstanding in friendship. So what happens? There's a misunderstanding. So you have to give and take. You have to judge the friend favorably. Otherwise the friendship is over. It's gone. It's gone. It's not going to last. So that's the simplest explanation. That's the simple explanation. Second level of explanation. There's a commentary called the Ketonet Pasim. Aseh lecha rav. He says, Rav also means great. Make yourself great. What does that mean? In your own eyes. Before you can acquire a friend, make yourself great. Have self-respect for yourself. First stage. Because if you're knocking yourself and you want to make a friend with someone else, by the way, I'm a lousy person. Who's going to be a friend with you? First guy you meet on the street, I'm useless. Goodbye, good. Yeah, I'm a loser. I don't know you. Aseh lecha rav. Make yourself great. And then, ukanei lecha chaver. And then acquire for yourself a friend. So that's number one, he says. So, on the other hand, there's a double-edged sword. Two things scare away people. Number one is a loser, a person who doesn't have any self-esteem. And the other one, on the other side of the coin, is being arrogant. No one likes a person who says, I am the greatest. Take with you, I'm the greatest. Okay, I want to be your friend, yeah. But I'm the greatest. Okay, goodbye. So it's double-edged sword. So on the one hand, self-respect is the truth. We said that before, we talked about it before. Person's got to know who they are, what their strengths are, and their weaknesses. We're strong and we're weak. We're not losers, we're not completely bad, we're not completely good. We're in the middle somewhere, we have self-respect. We're human beings. Communication. We have to learn how to communicate. The single greatest skill in creating and ensuring friendships is the art of communication. And that's very, very important. We have to learn how to communicate with each other. If you and your friend can communicate well with each other, it makes for a great relationship. If you can't communicate, learn how to communicate. A person's got to learn how to communicate. There is no alternative to communicating. A person has to communicate. We are social beings. We live in a social framework, which some people try their best to avoid other people. But if they want to have relationships, which we said is the bread and butter of life, relationships are the bread and butter of life, are the stepping stones to growth in our existence. Find the Bible tells us right at the beginning. It's amazing. Everything's right at the beginning. You want to learn about human nature, just read the first few chapters of the Bible. What happens? The snake comes to Eve. Says, Eve, nice tree here, right? She says, yeah. But God says, not allowed to touch it, and we're not allowed to eat it. And the day we touch it and eat it, we're going to die. So the snake says, he pushes her against the tree, you touched it, nothing happened. So now you can eat it. So the rabbis say, God doesn't say to Adam, don't touch the tree. God says to Adam, he says, don't eat the fruit of the tree. Doesn't say anywhere, don't touch the tree. So how does she get the impression that God says, don't touch it? So the answer is, the Midrash tells us, Adam made a fence around the Torah for his wife. God says, don't eat the fruit. Adam tells his wife, don't even touch the tree. But he didn't tell her, he miscommunicated. He didn't tell her God said only one thing, he says God says two things. Miscommunication caused her to eat the fruit. Miscommunication is the root of all evil. Miscommunication destroys families, destroys relationships. Miscommunication. Thomas says an amazing story of miscommunication. There's a man from Israel married a Jewish woman from Babylon. Trouble is, they didn't speak each other's language. If you know Hebrew, you know Aramaic. Aramaic is the language of the Talmud. Similar but different. So he used similar words, but they meant different things. So whenever he talked to his wife, he said, look, cook me this. She cooked him something else. Do this for me. She did something else for him. One day he was so exasperated. He asked for a watermelon, and she brought him candlesticks. He was exasperated. And that time, there was a rabbi visiting him. His name was Baba Ben Buta. So he said, take the candlesticks and put it on the head, put it on top of the door. There's a door, there's a shelf over there, put it over there. The word for a door is Baba. Put it on the head of Baba. She said, Baba? That's the rabbi's name. She takes the candlesticks and puts it on the head of the rabbi. Miscommunication. So the rabbi, so he said, oh, what headache. He says, I bless you both with a long life, happy marriage, and with a child like me. Why? He saw that with all the miscommunication, they're getting along somehow. I don't know. They're having patience with each other. So he blessed them. They have a child, and they did it. They have a child that had a very great child. But miscommunication is the danger. Adam and Eve, the whole thing fell apart because of miscommunication. He couldn't communicate with his wife. So miscommunication is very, very important. How does a person communicate? The first step in communicating is not even talking, listening. The first step in communication is listening. Not hearing, but listening. What's the difference in hearing and listening? We meant to say twice a day, Shema Yisrael. What does that mean? Shema Yisrael.
Hear, O Israel.
Yeah. Wrong.
To hear.
Listen. That's right.
Listen.
That's exactly the point.
Got me there.
Hearing, we could all hear. But understand. Listen. Don't just hear. And it goes one ear, whew, right out the other ear. The Midrash says there's 4 levels of people who sit before the rabbi in the class. One of them is, the worst level is the funnel. Goes right through. No one here, I'm not talking about anyone here. Goes right through. That's also in terms of people who hear people. I hear what you're saying. I can hear what you're saying. Shout more, I can hear you. You're hearing but you're not listening. So the word Shema does not mean hear. In fact, there's a big debate in the Talmud. The Talmud says, if anyone asks you, what does Jewish law say about this? Just say it's an argument. Because in the Talmud, there's always argument. Talmud discusses everything. There's always 2 sides. It's very, very important to realize there is always 2 sides to an issue. There's always an argument. There's one opinion in the end, but it's only arrived at by examining both sides. That's what Judaism does. If you look at the Talmud, see rabbis examining an issue from both sides. And it's interesting because in a Jewish court of law, if there's only one opinion of all the judges, we throw out that opinion. It's impossible for all judges just to see one side of the story. If there's only one side of the story, there's something fishy going on. Life is not just one side. It's got always 2 sides. So there's always 2 sides. So Talmud has a discussion. What does it mean, Shema Yisrael? What does it mean, Shema Yisrael?
Listen.
What
the Siddur says here.
I know. There's a lot of mistranslations.
I was quoting the Siddur.
Just 1 second. I'm not blaming you. There's a lot of mistranslations. That's why it's very important to pray in Hebrew. It's very important I myself grew up in England. I didn't know Hebrew. I was trying to learn the Torah. Till finally I came to the conclusion, you know what? The heck with it. I have to learn Hebrew. There's no other choice. If you really want to know what's going on without relying on other people's explanations, you have to read the original. There's no other way. There's no way around. There's no way out. You have to force yourself to break it. I had to force myself. It's painful. It took a couple of years. And I haven't got there 100%. I don't know every single word in Hebrew. I don't understand it myself. But you look up a dictionary, whatever it is, you have to rely on other people. But you've got to try and learn Hebrew. There's no other way of really understanding. So the Talmud says, these guys know Hebrew. What does Shema mean? They know Hebrew. It's not a question of knowing the language. It's a question of understanding what does God mean over here. So one opinion is, hear, O Israel. The other opinion is, understand Israel. What difference does it make? It has a practical difference. If I say the words, but I don't understand them, but I hear them, do I fulfill the obligation of saying the Shema? So one opinion says, yes, hear, O Israel. You have to hear it. You heard it. You don't understand what it means. It's like abracadabra as far as you know. Fully obligation. Second opinion, that's the Jewish law. It's not enough to hear it. You have to understand it. What difference does it make? If you say it quietly to yourself, you don't even hear what you're saying, but you understand what you're saying, you fulfill the obligation. Understanding is the key. Understanding is critical. In everything we do, understanding is the main thing. Right? Same thing applies in relationships. Communication. The first step of communicating is, what's the first step? Listening. Just listening, that's it. And usually, unfortunately, is not just listening, we have to understand. Because people sometimes say things, just like you go to a doctor, right? There's different kinds of doctors, by the way. You go to a doctor with a temperature, one doctor will say, take some aspirins and come back tomorrow. The other will say, you know what, it's a symptom of something going on. Let's try and find out what's going on. Sometimes people talk, they seem to be saying something, so yeah, I understand what they're saying. No, you don't understand. They're saying something which is a symptom of something deeper. For example, you come home every night and your spouse is complaining. Pray about this is no good, that's no good, that's no good, that's no good. So the question you have to ask is, what is really bothering you? Not everything can be no good. There's no such thing as everything's no good. If everything's no good, there's something deeper bothering you. So that's listening. That's listening. So we have to listen. That's number one, is we have to listen. We have to very listen. Number two, we have to learn how to communicate clearly. So one of the big problems in raising children is children don't get proper instructions. Be good in class. Be good in class. The child says, okay. What does that mean? Be good in class. Does that mean I don't get any detentions? Does that mean I don't interfere with anyone? What does it mean? Doesn't mean I have to study. Doesn't say study. Just be good in class. It's very important to give clear instructions, communications. To talk clearly and say exactly what a person feels. Otherwise, it's a guessing game. You're saying something, they're saying something back to you. You don't mean that, she doesn't mean that. And you don't know what's going on over here. It's going one way and it's going the other way. So communication is an art. It's an art of communicating. Politicians learn this art. They learn how not to say something and how not to communicate. It's a negative art. But we have to learn how to communicate. Number 2, when you're talking, don't let tensions build up. Communicate and get rid of the tensions. Communicate before the tensions build up. Don't communicate after you get upset. Communicate before you get upset. Communicate. And force yourself sometimes to express the issues, but never in the heat of the moment. I have a rabbi, my rabbi never talks to anyone when they're angry. His policy is, come back to see me tomorrow. You're angry? I don't talk to anyone who's angry. I can't. That's my policy. I never talk to anyone angry. You're angry? I'll talk to you tomorrow. And that's based on the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, never pacify someone who is angry, because you make them more angry. Never comfort a mourner when they're really mourning. Just sit there. Don't say, don't worry, it's going to be okay. The guy just lost his wife. Don't say it's okay, it's all right. What are you talking about? Guy's crazy. So certain things we're not allowed to do at the heat of the moment. You can't do it. So number 1 is, I can't pacify someone who's angry. What do? I'll talk to you tomorrow. Go get a good night's sleep and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And number 3, we have to set fixed times for communicating. It's very important. Today one of the problems in marriages, the survey is, how many minutes does a person spend talking to their wives?
10 minutes.
27 minutes a week. When I'm not talking about...
I'm not included in that, but...
No, you're definitely not included.
27, wow.
3 minutes, sad. 3 minutes a day. I'm not talking about who's going to do the shopping. I'm about generally talking about life. Where are we headed? What are we doing? What is this? Normally what happens is, you get home, get a shopping list. This is what we need. What else do we need? Can I do it? Pay any bills? This and that, the other. It's over. That's it. Apart from that, it's 3 minutes a day. 27 minutes a week. Usually it's on one day. Well, 27 minutes. The rest of the week there's no time. And communicating, the person's got to learn. Why am I communicating? I'm communicating in order to help. I'm communicating in order to comfort. I'm communicating in order to criticize sometimes. But not criticize, but help that person to grow. There's different ways of communicating, but it's an art. Learning how to communicate is an art, and different ways of doing it. And just lastly, very quickly, judging favorably. The Bible tells us in Leviticus 19, with righteousness you shall judge your fellow man. The word tzaddik, which is righteous person, comes from the word tzedek. Righteously you will judge your fellow man. You have to judge a person favorably. And the Talmud says, whoever judges their fellow man favorably, God will judge them favorably. We judge others favorably. Let me give you a little example. You invited a guest over. The next day you can't find something in your house. So what's the first flash thought comes into a person's mind? That guy. Who else could it be? It's impossible. There's no one else in my house. He's the only guy. Where could it have gone? There's only one explanation. So the guy who's smart will say, you know what? I'm not going to judge anyone. Imagine the guy calling up the guy. What do you do with it? Wait a second. Give them the benefit of the doubt. The honorable people, who else are you going to invite in your house? If he's a crook, you invite him over, that's your problem. Honorable people you invited over, 1 second. What happens normally is, 2 weeks later, it turns up in the most unlikely place. That's what normally happens. Then you forget, you lent it out to someone else, you gave it over here, this one came in, borrowed it, we're forgetful people. We've got permanent Alzheimer's. All of us has a level of forgetfulness of it. So we have to judge other people favorably. And if we judge other people favorably, what happens? God judges us favorably. It's very important for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. when we desire that our fellow man be righteous, and we ascribe them to be righteous, God also desires that we be righteous and views us as righteous. We view others righteous, God says, you view others righteous. That's a great level. I'm going to treat you the same way. And that's true in most relationships as well. And we said, person, that's what the next step of the Mishnah was. Make yourself great. Have self-esteem. Acquire a friend and judge your fellow man favorably. Because that's the only way that friendships are going to last. Those are the 3 different levels. Okay, so let's recap. We mentioned 5 things. Number 1, we said human relations are the vehicle for growth. Human relations provide the tests in our daily lives. How are we going to react? We're going to say, that son of a gun, so-and-so, and so-and-so, so-and-so. We're going to sit down, have a talk, and say, find out. Now I know where he's coming from. Now he knows where I'm coming from. It's very important. It's a vehicle for growth. Number 2, we have to learn self-respect. Love your friend as yourself. You have to love yourself. Without loving oneself, one cannot love other people. Number 3, respect for others. Human beings are created in the image of God, every single human being. Number 4, communication. Number 5, unselfishness. We talked about Aaron, the high priest. He loved his brother, even though his brother became greater than him. And number 6, judging other people favorably. Okay, any more questions? And we'll stop. Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Okay, so we'll continue next week, same time, same channel. Continue next week. Don't flip the switch. Okay. Okay, today's topic is relating to other people.